So this is the statistics of arrivals we are all talking, of course, of irregular migrants who arrive to Europe without a visa. And we have three routes. The first one is from Western Africa towards Spain, either through the Canaries or through the Strait of Gibraltar. The second one is the central Mediterranean route, which ends up in Italy, mostly in Sicily. This is the island of Lampedusa. And then there is, of course, also an eastern route through the Balkans by foot or through boat from Turkey to Greece. And this route, the eastern route, was very problematic in 2015. There was a sudden peak of arrivals through this route, especially when, after the famous speech by Chancellor Merkel of Germany, when she welcomed in August 2015 the Syrian migrants to Germany. And this route was so problematic that the European Union then signed an agreement with Turkey to stop them. That was in March 2016. And the flow of migrants through the eastern route from March to April went down 98%. Before this agreement, there were 60,000 people arriving each month through the eastern route, and in April, abruptly, they almost stopped. But all this mass of migrants then undertook the central Mediterranean route. That's why now Italy is under severe stress because of arrivals. We estimate an average rate of arrivals of 20,000 people per month in Italy. This is the situation in 2016. You see the eastern route has declined a lot, while all the pressure has been shifted to the central Mediterranean route towards Italy. So we had an agreement with Turkey to block the eastern route, and an agreement with Morocco to stop the flows from northwestern Africa. And the problem remains in the central Mediterranean because those people live from the Libyan shores. And as you know, Libya is in a state of anarchy nowadays. So the government is not a government recognized by the United Nations in Libya, has no control over the territory, is not able to stop the migrants from undertaking this very risky travel towards the shores of Italy. Those are the asylum applications by country. For comparison, I put also the data relating to New Zealand. And you see in New Zealand they are very low. They have increased a lot in 2016. There is an exceptional quota for Syrian refugees, dedicated to Syrian refugees, but they are still low compared to European application of refugees. As a matter of fact, New Zealand would be in an ideal rank, would be situated under Luxembourg, which of course is a very tiny country. So the countries that received the most number of applications are Germany, Italy, Sweden, and France. Of course, if you considered also the population, Austria and Hungary are also put under a very high pressure. And this is, to be fair, those were the applications, but this is the acceptance of claims by asylum seekers. And you see the average in the European Union is 45 on first instance, but then they have the right to appeal. So on appeal, another 18% on average in euro are accepted. So the rate is around 65%. And we have very generous countries like Bulgaria that accepts most of the application because they are mostly by Syrian refugees as asylum claimants. And at the other end of the scale is Hungary, with just 9% of acceptance. By the way, after the summer 2015, when the flow of migrants started to increase a lot from the eastern part, Hungary started to build its famous wall with Serbia to stop the migrants entering into the European Union. But as you know, no matter how beautiful the wall is or how sharp the coils on the wall are, people keep coming because nothing stops them. It's a question of survival for them. So these flows have to be managed in some ways. Those again are the asylum applicants according to their country of origin. Of course, the Syrians are the mass part of them. Afghanistan, Kosovo, Eritrea, which is also a source of asylum seekers because they live under a regime that is not a democratic regime, to say, how do you say, okay, no, it's not a democratic regime. If you think that they have military service with undetermined time, they can serve in the military service and they are used to do slave labors. So a lot of people, young people, try to flee the country. If you see all these areas in the world map with dark colors, there are all countries like Iraq, Syria, Afghanistan, where there are ongoing civil wars. This is the international legislation that regulates the asylum regime. Of course, the basic convention was signed in 1951, when the flow of asylum seeker was not as much as today, so it's now an outdated juridical instrument. And the other convention, International Convention on Maritime Search and Rescue, and the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea regulates they put an obligation to the countries who control the sea to rescue boats in distress. So there is an obligation for the navies and coast guards of the European countries that border the Mediterranean to intervene and rescue those people. And as a matter of fact, there are both national missions to rescue migrants at sea. The European mission was called Triton, and it has changed its name. Now it's Operation Sophie. And we have also national missions, like rescue missions, like the Mare Nostrum in Italy, which is a big load on taxpayers' money, because it costs around 13 million euros per month. And this is the EU legislation that regulates the migration, of course, starting with the Schengen Agreement. Of course, the Schengen Agreement regulates the free movement of people between Schengen member countries. Some of the European member countries are members of the Schengen Agreement. Others are not, like Britain and Cyprus. But countries who are not European Union members, like Switzerland, Norway, adhere to the Schengen area agreement, And the Dublin regulation is also very important because it regulates, it's the European piece of legislation that establishes which country has to process the refugee claim of the people arriving to Europe. And the default criteria is that the first country of the European Union where they arrive has to process their claim for the refugee status. And that's why the Italian system is under very much strain to process all these applications. And to adjust the Dublin regulation, the European countries decided on a relocation system of refugees, but it has failed because it was agreed upon 2 years ago, and in a space of 2 years it should relocate 160,000 refugee seekers, refugee claimants, and it just succeeded until today, and it's expiring next September to relocate a little bit more than 14,000 claimants, so less than 10%.